Welcome to my presentation. This is a presentation from my personal report which named, A Comparison of Social Inequality Between Japan and Vietnam. The presentation can be divided into three parts, the statistical analysis and the cause of social inequality in Vietnam and Japan. This is part 1 about statistical analysis. First is the poor household rate. To clarify, the percentage of the poor households is the rate of among the total number of households. The higher gap between social classes. It was surprising that Japan's rate is that high. But it's possible that the reason is the old data. Because as I checked, the percentage of people who live in poverty has decreased from 2014 to 2020 from 23.2% to 15.7%. According to the annual report of the Vietnam Ministry of Labor, Injured Soldiers, and Social Affairs, the poverty rate of Vietnam has continuously improved. The achievement is from the efforts of all regions of the country, but there are still income disparities between regions. Recent estimates for global poverty are that 9.2% of the world, or 689 million people, live in extreme poverty on $1.90 or less a day, according to the World Bank. It is still high, but compared to nearly 36% in 1990, the world has made huge development in overcoming global poverty. The second graph is about the Gini index rate. It is used to measure income inequality or wealth inequality within a nation or any other group of people. A higher Gini index indicates greater inequality, with high-income individuals receiving much larger percentages of the total income of the population. Japan has the lowest Gini index among 3 columns. It's probably because of the big manager system and shareholder system. It also looks considerably higher than the poor household rate, probably because the majority of Japanese poor people did not marry. Vietnam's Gini index is much higher than Japan, which is an infamous issue because Vietnam politics promises to pursue class equality. No one left behind motto. The gap between the 20% of the high-income population and 20% of the low-income population remains high, about 10 times. On a positive note, Vietnam's Gini index is not too high compared to other countries in the region and is quite stable. According to the General Statistics Office, the inequality coefficient in the income distribution of the whole country in 2018 tended to change positively when compared with the previous years. Global Gini index increased from the 19th to 20th centuries, but has declined in more recent years. Some of the world's poorest countries, Central African Republic, has the highest Gini coefficients, 61.3, while many of the wealthiest, Denmark, have the lowest, 28.8. The third graph is about the infant mortality rate. Because the newborn child's health is not good and they are in need of much medical assistance, the infant mortality rate might be an appropriate indicator of social inequality. Relatively speaking, a more equal society means a better healthcare system for every citizen. The higher the infant mortality rate, the greater inequality. Today, Japan has one of the lowest infant mortality rates in the world, with approximately 99.8% of all babies surviving past their first birthday. In Vietnam, under 1 and under 5-year-old mortality rates have both fallen sharply over the past 2 decades. The infant mortality rate is 14 deaths per 1,000 live births, down more than half compared to 20 years ago. The burden of child mortality also remains unevenly distributed. The highest under 5 mortality rate remains in the African region, 74 per 1,000 live births, around 9 times higher than that in the European region, 8 per 1,000 live births. The fourth graph illustrates the peace score of several countries but focuses on Vietnam. Most people won't be happy if they are discriminated against. The P stands for Happy Planet Index, is the measure of human well-being and environmental impact that was introduced by the New Economic Foundation in 2006. The higher the P score, the more chance they receive fair and equal treatment. Japan has an average P score even though it is a developed country. It indicates that the government does not take enough action, or the citizen does not understand the government actions well enough. Vietnam's ranking is high, but I notice a tendency among Vietnamese people to hide their negative feeling. In the second section, we will examine the cause of social inequality in both countries. On the Vietnam side, one of the reasons is the disadvantaged ethnic group and region. Ethnic minorities are increasingly lagging behind in growth, makes the majority of the poor to be concentrated among ethnic minorities. In addition, the process of industrialization and modernization also partly leads to land loss for farmers and the rural poor. Another reason is the inequality in access to education. The relation between lack access to education and a poor income career is actually a life trajectory. Young workers whose parents are managers will have the opportunity to be a manager, or at least office staff. High 10 times more than young workers whose parents do manual jobs like farmers or fishermen. Some people accuse the unrealistic high expectation of women as a cause. Vietnamese women mainly work in low-income or vulnerable occupations. Women also make up a large portion of the workforce of unpaid family work and in the invisible sector of the informal economy, such as domestic work, street vendors, and workers in the entertainment industry. The main cause of this situation is the assigned lower status and the burden of unpaid housework on women. But they are still expected to participate in self-sufficient agricultural production and family finance. On the Japan side, one of the reasons is the decreasing chances of occupational mobility. It became a challenge for many individuals to claim their membership in the middle-class society, and they got stuck with low-paying and insecure jobs. The number of part-time workers is around 30%, but it's difficult for them to get married, set up a separate household, or begin a family. Young people without elite qualifications are looking at an endless series of low-paying and dead-end jobs. Another reason is ethnicity. Japan claims racial homogeneity, but the minority population has existed in Japan for centuries and struggles for social inclusion, political and economic equality. Further research reveals another reason: the government and media inclination to give up. A lot of news coverage and presidential speech accepts inequality becomes the lasting cost of global competitiveness. That is the end of my presentation.